Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Keith, for the initiative to put this effort together. This is going to be an interesting experience because Keith put the PowerPoint presentation together for me, and I put the notes together. And so whether I can match them up is going to be an interesting experience. We'll start out by sharing with you, as Keith mentioned, a lot of people don't know who is REDI or what is REDI. REDI is the Regional Economic Development Incorporated. It's the economic development organization, not-for-profit, membership-based for Columbia, Boone County. And so our job is to, A, attract jobs to the community, B, retain our good quality jobs in the community, and 3, support entrepreneurship, which I'm going to obviously talk more about here this morning. We also spend time working on different foundation issues that are critical to the success of businesses in this community. And we share that responsibility, I would point out, with the Chamber of Commerce. So when I came to Columbia a little over 2 years ago, the first initiative that I wanted to establish was trying to understand what are the assets that we have as a community. And when I refer to assets, I'm talking about it from the macro level. So as we try to recruit a company like IBM to the community, we need to understand what the assets are that we have to promote and to help build that relationship. And so what you see here is a piece of that asset map that Keith and I worked on. Asset mapping, there's different tools. We happen to have picked one that relatively easy for this, those of us who are not terribly technical in nature. But the idea of the asset map is to try to understand and to put into a picture so you can appreciate where pieces fit, what the pieces are. And so you can see here that some of the entrepreneurial experiences that are available here are listed under technology assets, community assets, entrepreneurial groups, and on. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of these as we go forward. So talking more about economic development, I mentioned that, what do we do in the foundation sense? Think of economic development as a three-legged stool. One leg of that stool is what we would call attraction, and that's the bringing of new investments and new jobs. The second leg of that stool is what we call retention and expansion. We're trying to focus on good customer service for the employers that are already here. And then again, that third leg, there's a lot of different terms. Economic gardening is the one that we are embracing here. I happen to also like organic growth because it implies that you're doing something internally. You're not out there, chasing smokestacks. Which historically, I've been in economic development now a few years, I won't tell you how many. Historically, what economic development organizations would do is chase smokestacks. They would try to go out and find that next Kraft Foods or 3M or whoever and bring those jobs to the community. Well, as our economy has changed, some of that has changed, but there are still a lot of economic development groups that is in fact what they do. I realized personally many years ago that the growth opportunities of entrepreneurship is really an area we've got to focus on. So some of my experiences, early in my career, I had the opportunity to work with a regional pizza chain called Noble Romans. Now, they're not in Missouri, but they're a regional-based firm. And their headquarters was in Bloomington, Indiana, where I was the chamber president. So I had an opportunity to understand and appreciate how a restaurant, which is not typically the kind of jobs that economic development organizations go after, but by virtue of having lots of restaurants, you have a back office or a front office or a headquarters. So then I went to Lafayette, Indiana, where I had the opportunity to work with a company called Wabash National. Probably no one in this room has ever heard of that company, but as you drive up and down the interstates, the semi-trailers that have the outline of the United States on them, in red, that's a Wabash National trailer. They are the largest manufacturer of semi-trailers in the country. They started in 1984 as a startup in Lafayette. 1991, the gentleman, the entrepreneur who started the firm, was named the National Entrepreneur of the Year, making a commodity product. Semi-trailers are commodity products. And yet, 3,000 employees are now employed in Lafayette in that startup firm. And then, of course, here, there's a lot of companies that we can talk about, but VA Mortgage is probably the one that we all think of when we think about that startup that's showing great success, creating jobs, good paying jobs, and creating the kind of wealth that we're interested in. So some of our recent successes, probably the biggest one that we will continue to be working on for some time is IBM. I have a phone call I need to make today, in fact, to respond to a question that they have. But 800 good paying jobs are going to come into the community. With those 800 jobs will come spouses, will come probably opportunities for more entrepreneurship. And so our commitment to entrepreneurs. As I've indicated, I'm a strong supporter and have been throughout my career in economic development to supporting the startup activities. So we're going to do a number of things, and I will start off by telling you this event is an example. We did this event 2 years ago, almost to the day. So this is our second opportunity now to come together and focus on the assets around entrepreneurship in the university and RJI. We're also in the process, and the construction will start soon, of building a new office in the downtown new parking garage, the 5th Street parking garage. The one that a lot of people find to be somewhat unattractive, maybe. To us, it's going to be beautiful because it's going to be our home. And I guarantee you'll be able to find parking when you come to see us. But in addition to just simply putting our office downtown, we're currently located on the south side of town in about 2,200 square feet. When we come downtown, we're going to double our capacity. We're going to go to almost 5,000 square feet, and half of that space is going to be dedicated to entrepreneurship. Right now, many of you in this room are familiar with the Small Business Technology Development Corporation, housed on campus in the College of Engineering. Two of the counselors who are counseling small business entrepreneurs are going to relocate from that office into our office downtown. So we're going to make it much easier, no offense to the university, but we're going to make it much easier to get in and get out and have access to that counseling. We're also putting a 30-person training room in that space so that we won't have to go out and beg for space to do training programs. We'll be able to accommodate most of the training in-house. That training room will be outfitted with two-way video, complements of Boone Electric satellite systems. So it's going to be, ideally a very, very attractive, functional, and meaningful space to our entrepreneur community. And then complements of the city, which we'll end up paying a lease on, we're going to put together a 1,400 square foot incubator. This is not going to be an incubator to compete with our life science incubator. It's not going to be an incubator to compete with the League of Innovators. It's really something that we want to do to focus on student and young entrepreneurs. One of our objectives here, and this is a REDI objective and many others, is how do we continue to build an entrepreneurial culture? And so creating that is one of the ways that we can do that. A couple of other items, and I'll wrap up here. We also started last year with our first ever Entrepreneurial Summit. Vicki Russell was kind enough to chair that. For those of you who went, you will recall it was on the Friday of the biggest snowstorm that the city's had in 50 years. And as of Thursday morning, we still weren't sure we were going to have a summit. And on Friday morning, 200 and some people showed up. It was a great experience, and we have the winners of our balance competition sitting in the back of the room. Great innovation and creativity. And it's that kind of innovation and creativity that we want to see continue to move forward. And so we're going to do our second summit, summit number 2, February 10th. same location. So if you're interested, jot it down. Vicki is kind enough to chair this event again. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And the last thing I want to say is 2 years ago, there was a lot of interest in entrepreneurship. Today, it's just exponentially growing. The universities creating programs. Brent Beshore and Kelsey Mayer are creating a League of Innovators. Just so much going on in this community. It's an exciting time.